Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
The opening phase of what came to be called the Burnside Expedition, which is the Battle of Roanoke Island, which was an amphibious operation. So we got a lot of amphibious operations in the beginning here.
Which the armored part of the boats is upper hand to the Union, but the quickness and movability is the Southern boats.
So far, that's what we've seen. They can't maneuver, and plus, Union's got a lot of boats and stuff that are the river's too shallow for them, so they can't get their big ones in there.
Yeah,
a lot of
true.
places. So
That's true.
Battle of Roanoke Island was fought on February 7th through the 8th in the North Carolina Sounds, which is a short distance south of the Virginia border. So we're just right there, huh? Northeastern North Carolina is dominant. Is this first North Carolinian? North Carolinian?
I haven't heard of that name yet. I forgot about North Carolina.
Right. Northeastern North Carolina is dominated by its sounds, but large but shallow bodies of brackish to saltwater, nasty, that lie between the mainland on the Outer Banks. Although they are all one body, intimately connected and having a common water level, they are conceptually divided into several distinct regions. The largest of these is the Pamlico Sound, immediately behind Hatteras Island, which we've covered already, so I guess we have had North Carolina.
Maybe.
To its north is the second largest, called the Albemarle Sound. Albemarle Sound, which extends almost to the southern border of Virginia. So, got some stuff going on here by Virginia and North Carolina.
North Carolina
North
is
Kakalaki.
for waterways, huh? The linkage between these two, somewhat narrow, is further constricted by Roanoke Island.
Okay, so that's where we're at there, huh?
The portion of the waterway between Roanoke Island and the mainland is known as Croton Sound. Both the island and the sound are about 10 miles long. The sound, at its widest, is a little more than 4 miles across. Dang.
It's about,
That's
it's pretty
huge.
big, actually, yeah.
The island about half of that. On the other side,
So it's only a 2-mile island.
on the eastern side of the island is Roanoke Sound, much narrower, shallower, and less important.
Roanoke sounds like, in other words, they would have been classified as other or
they're
several,
or they're classified as homeless vets. Less important. Several North Carolina cities were sited on the Sounds. Among them, New Bern, which sometimes had an E at the end in the mid-19th century. Also, there were Beaufort, Edenton, and Elizabeth City, which you guys will hear today.
Oh, I didn't even tell you guys. Yeah, did I tell you it was Elizabeth City too? I can't remember. But yeah, Elizabeth City's their second one. Oh yeah, I did. Duh. Others not lying directly on the Sounds were accessible to the rivers that emptied into them.
Okay.
As much as a third of the state is in their watershed.
All right.
Through most of the first year of the Civil War, the Confederate forces retained control of the Sounds, so that the coastwise waterborne commerce of the eastern part of the state was unimpeded. Unimpeded. The Sounds were linked to Norfolk, Virginia by the Albemarle and Chesapeake Canal and the Dismal Swamp Canal. That sounds dismal.
All right.
The blockade of Norfolk could not be complete so long as cargoes could reach the city through its back door.
Hey.
Communications were not affected appreciably when federal forces captured the forts on the Outer Banks at Hatteras Inlet, which we had an episode on, and go look at that, in August of 1861. As the Union Navy could not bring its deep water vessels into the Sounds through the shallow inlets, just like I was saying earlier.
Just like I was saying, too. Roanoke Island was the key to control of the Sounds.
Yeah.
If controlled by the Union forces, they would have a base that could be attacked only by amphibious operation, which the rebels could not mount.
We know that.
If the Union established naval superiority at the Sound, all points on the mainland shores would be equally vulnerable to the assault. Okay. The Confederate defenders would be forced into an impossible situation. They would either have to give up some positions without a fight, or they would have to spread their assets too thin to be of any use.
Either way, they're screwed.
Right.
The defense of Roanoke Island started in an accidental manner.
Oh, isn't that usually how great things start?
Right, and when the federal fleet appeared off, or somebody was like, hold my beer. Do you think they said that first? When the federal fleet appeared off of Hatteras Inlet on August 27th, 1861, the 3rd Georgia Infantry Regiment was hastily sent from Norfolk to help hold the forts there. But the forts fell before they arrived, so they were diverted to Roanoke Island.
I was going to say hold my Budweiser, but that didn't happen until 1876.
Oh, right. They remained there for the next 3 months, making somewhat desultory efforts to expel the Union forces from Hatteras Island. Little was done to secure the position until early October.
No, it's not our fault that we have problems. It's just, why would these type of words?
Right.
Come on, you know there's a better word for desultory.
I'm going to have to start going through every one of these and ones that
And use the stupid
layman's
words.
term for it. This is a layman's term. That's a layman's term for idiots.
Right. Right.
Little was done to secure the position until early
This should be called
October.
The Idiot's Guide to the Civil War.
Yeah, I know, right?
Idiot's Guide to the Civil War.
Oh, we
The
say
Civil War.
we,
Battles of the Civil War for idiots.
we say all like the easiest words and little was done to secure the position until early October when Brigadier General Hill was assigned to command the coastal defenses of North Carolina in the vicinity of the Sounds.
All right. Hill set his soldiers to putting up earthworks across the center of the island, but he was called away to service in Virginia before they were completed. Shortly after his departure, his district was split into two. The southern part was assigned to Brigadier General Lawrence O.B. Branch, while the northern part was put in control of Henry A. Wise, just a random guy,
Right.
whose command included Albemarle Sound and Roanoke Island, but not Pamlico Sound and its cities.
Okay.
Ain't there cities? Yeah. It is also
We just
significant.
established that.
Right. It is also significant that Branch reported to Brigadier General Richard C. Gatlin,
Ooh, Gatlin.
who commanded the Department of North Carolina, while Wise was under Major General Benjamin Huger, who was in charge of the defenses of Norfolk. So that's a problem. You can't have that many.
I wonder if they clashed then. Like, oh, I don't take orders from you guys. Wise had been commander of the so-called Wise Legion, but his troops did not accompany him. Okay, why? The Legion was broke up, although he was able to retain two of his old regiments, the 46th and 59th Virginia. He also had three regiments of North Carolina troops, the 2nd, 8th, and 34th, the 2nd, 8th, and 31st, plus 3 companies of the 17th North Carolina. The men from North Carolina were ill-equipped and poorly clothed, often armed with nothing more than their own shotguns.
That's a common theme for Confederate soldiers, guys.
All told, the number came to about 1,400 infantrymen, but the number available for duty was smaller than that because the living conditions put as many as 1/4 of the command on the sick list. Jeez, dude.
Why? Yeah, that's ridiculous. Why would they even send these guys?
Why
to
are they not
battle?
manufacturing guns?
Because they can't.
Why can't they?
They don't have any of those.
They have some.
They don't have no
New Orleans
steel.
has shops and shit.
They don't have no steel plants or anything.
Oh,
That's
New
the
Orleans.
North.
New Orleans has something.
They're buying their guns from the British. And they're flintlocks.
Probably true.
Weiss begged Richmond to send him some guns, as had Hill before him, but the numbers that were actually sent were inadequate. They were distributed into several nominal forts. Facing Crotonton Sound were 12 guns in Fort Huger. At Weir's Point, the northwestern corner of the island, 4 guns in Fort Blanchard, about a mile to the southeast, and 9 guns at Fort Barlow, at romantically named Port Point. Why is it romantically?
Or Fort Bartow, anyways. Yeah, romantically named because they're porking.
All right,
I don't
working at a point, baby. About a quarter of the way down the island. That's where Port Point was. Across the Sound, at Redstone Point, opposite Fort Huger, 2 old canal barges had been pushed up onto the mud, protected by sandbags and cotton bales, armed with 7 guns and named Fort Forest.
Oh, look at them. Jeez, what a ragtag
Yeah, that's garbage.
thing there. These were all the guns that would bear on the Sound. The southern half of the island nearest Pamlico Sound, in the direction from which the attack would come, was unprotected. 5 other guns did not face Croton Sound. A battery of 2 guns on the eastern side of the island protected against possible assault from Roanoke Sound. And 3 others occupied an earthwork near the geometric center of the island. Wise made one other contribution to the defense. He found some pile drivers, damn, tombstones, bitches, and was able to impede the Sound between Forts Huger and Forest by a double row of piles augmented by sunken hulks. So one side of the island is completely unprotected, and of course that's the side that gets assaulted.
Right.
Idiots.
Well, the barrier was still being worked on when the attack came. The Confederate Navy also made a contribution to the defense.
Good for them.
7 gunboats, mounting a total of only 8 guns. What's the sense? You could just put all those on one boat. Jeez. They formed the Mosquito Fleet.
Yeah, the Mosquito Fleet. We talked
commanded by
about that.
Flag Officer William F. Lynch. Wise, for one, believed that their net contribution was negative.
Right.
Not only were their guns taken from the forts on the island, but so were their crews.
Right, so they took the guns from the forts and put them on these boats.
Right. He gave vent to this after the battle. Captain Lynch was energetic, zealous, and active, but he gave too much consequence entirely to his fleet of gunboats, which hindered transportation of piles, lumber, forage, supplies of all kinds, and of, most importantly, troops. By taking away the steam tugs and converting them into perfectly imbecile gunboats.
Oh, imbecile gunboats.
Jeez, Pete. Polly Pocket. Where are you at on this one, bud?
It's his great-great-grandfather.
Right. Despite Wise's disapproval, the Mosquito Fleet was part of the defense, and the Union forces would have to deal with it.
They would have to deal with it.
You're going to have to deal with it, man.
Right. Short time after Hatteras Island was captured for the Union, Burnside began to promote the idea of a coast division to be composed of fishermen, dock workers, and other watermen from the northeastern states and used to attack coastal areas.
Right.
He reasoned that such men were already familiar with ships and therefore could be easy to train for amphibious operations, probably. Burnside was a close friend of General-in-Chief George B. McClellan, so he got a respectful hearing. Although Burnside had initially intended to operate in Chesapeake Bay in the hands of McClellan and the War Department, his ideas were soon transformed into a planned assault on the North Carolina interior coast, beginning with, you guessed it, Roanoke Island.
Dang. An unspoken reason for the change of target was the mistaken belief that pro-Union sentiment was being suppressed in North Carolina. And an invasion would allow them to express their true loyalties. I guess. When it was fleshed out, the invasion of North Carolina came to be known as the Burnside Expedition, as we said.
Right.
As recruiting progressed, Burnside organized the Coast Division into 3 brigades, led by 3 friends from his military academy days. Hey, buds, I got a job for you.
Oh.
Brigadier General John G. Foster led the 1st Brigade. Brigadier General Jesse L. Reno led the 2nd. Brigadier General John G. Park had the 3rd.
Good for him.
In early January, nearly 13,000 men were ready to fight. Like, we're ready, boys.
13,000 of us, all of us. Mm-hmm. Although the Union Navy would provide most of the gunnery that would be needed to suppress the rebel batteries, Burnside decided to have some gunboats under Army control. This immediately led to some interference between the two services, of course. The Navy had no vessels sturdy enough to go to sea, and at the same time draw little enough water to be able to pass through the Shadow Inlet, right? Thought to be about only 8 feet. Wow, that's not at all.
Right.
They therefore had to buy suitable merchant ships for conversion at the very time that Burnside and his agents also dickering their ships. Mm-hmm. Because the sailors were more experienced, they were able to get most of the more suitable ships.
Right.
Obviously, right.
Clearly.
They know what they're looking for.
Right. Yeah, that's the Union had that advantage because the Union Atlantic coast from Virginia on up, actually from Maryland on up, those guys were like fishermen, crabs.
That, and they had the ability to just go out and buy ships.
Right.
To convert.
And the Southerns usually, they're just farmers, man.
Right.
There were not a lot of fishermen unless you go down to Florida or something like that.
Right.
Or right on the coast of the Carolinas.
Right.
The Army was left with a mixed bag of rickety ships that were barely seaworthy. Mm. By the time the expedition got underway, the Navy had 20 gunboats. Talk about the Union, right?
Yeah.
And the Coast Division had 9. Their armada was supplemented by several canal boats converted into floating batteries, mounting boat howitzers, and protected by sandbags and bales of hay. Ooh. All told, the expedition carried 108 pieces of ordnance.
Good for them. That's a lot.
Right.
While Burnside's
I question the hay and the cotton stacks. Right? The hay bales and the cotton.
Well, easy to set on fire, but I mean, bullets aren't going to go through a big-ass stack of hay.
That's true. And how many of those are going to have...
Remember the one battle we had...
and how many soldiers are going to have flaming arrows?
The one battle, remember, they soaked the bales of hay
in water,
and then to prevent them from doing hot shots at them and stuff like that. And they were hiding, but they were rolling them while they were moving up behind them. So
man, that gives you a lot of weight on that boat, though.
That's true.
That's no wonder why they weren't movable.
Right. There's only 8 feet of water, guys.
Right.
Jeez. While Burnside's agents were purchasing the gunboats, they were also buying or leasing other vessels to be used as transports. The soldiers and transports for the expedition assembled at Annapolis. They started leaving on January 5th, 1862, and on January 9th, they began to get underway with orders to rendezvous at Fort Monroe near the entrance to Chesapeake Bay. There they met the naval contingent, and on January 11th, they set sail. Ooh. Until this time, only Burnside and his immediate staff knew their ultimate destination.
Of course, that's how it should be.
Right. Once at sea, the captain of each ship opened his sealed orders and learned that a ship would proceed to the vicinity of Cape Hatteras.
Uh-oh. We're on the move, boys.
Yeah,
we're on the
doing
move.
some things.
Let's take a look at the Union Army in this little battle. Coast Division. Brigadier General Ambrose E. Burnside, he led that. His first brigade was the 10th Connecticut, 23rd Massachusetts, 24th, 25th, and 27th Massachusetts. Second Brigade, led by Brigadier General Jesse L. Reno, had the 21st Massachusetts, 9th New Jersey, 51st New York, 51st Pennsylvania. Third Brigade was his, Brigadier General Park, 8th Connecticut, 11th Connecticut, 9th New York, 4th Rhode Island, and the 5th Rhode Island. Unassigned units, 1st New York Marine Artillery, 99th New York, which was a Coast Guard. Nice. Army gunboats, Picket, Vedette, Hussar, Lancer, Ranger, Chasseur, Pioneer, and Sentinel.
Yeah. Yeah, we got the Union Navy over here called, it was the North Atlantic Blockading Squadron under Flag Officer Louis M. Goldsboro with USS Philadelphia, the USS Southfield.
Yeah, but the Philadelphia was not fit for engagement, so.
Squadron flagship, though, being unfit for the purpose, took no part in the engagement, but it was still the flagship. Though.
Right.
USS Southfield, commanded by CFW Bame. USS Delaware, Lieutenant S.P. Quackenbush got that one. USS Stars and Stripes.
Quackenbush.
Led
that was
by
a popular name back then. Quackenbush. You don't see that
my
often
science
anymore.
teacher in 9th grade.
Quackenbush?
Was Mr. Quackenbush.
Nice.
USS Stars and Stripes, Lieutenant Reed Weirden is captaining that one, or commanding that one. USS Louisiana, led by Lieutenant A. Murray. USS Hetzel, Lieutenant H.K. Davenport. USS Underwriter, Lieutenant W.N. Jeffers. USS Commodore Perry, Lieutenant C.W. Flusser. USS Valley City. USS Commodore Barney. USS Hunchback, and the USS Morse.
Good for those guys.
Plus the USS Whitehead, plus the USS John L. Lockwood, plus the USS Henry Brinker, plus the USS Isaac N. Seymour, plus USS Ceres, plus USS General Putnam, plus the USS Shawsheen, and the USS Granite.
Holy shit.
They got a lot of stuff going on.
Wow.
Jeez.
Well, Confederate Army was a district of Roanoke. Brigadier General Henry Wise. He was not present in the battle because he was sick.
He had the sniffles.
Right. So Colonel Henry M. Shaw was second in command. He had the 2nd North Carolina, 8th North Carolina, 17th Carolina, 31st Carolina, 46th Virginia, and 59th Virginia. The Virginia regiments were part of the Wise Legion. The Mosquito Fleet, Flag Officer William F. Lynch commanded that. All of these fleets, which was the CSS Seabird, which was the flagship, CSS Curlew was sunk, CSS Ellis, CSS Beaufort, CSS Raleigh, CSS Fanny, CSS Forest, CSS
Appomattox.
Not the Battle of Roanoke Island. It wasn't at the Battle of Roanoke Island, but this is the ships that he commanded.
Right.
CSS Black Warrior, it was a schooner, though.
A schooner.
Right.
For many of the Federal soldiers, the voyage to Hatteras Inlet was the worst part of the battle. Earning its reputation, the weather in the vicinity of the Cape Hatteras turned foul, causing many of them to become seasick.
Oh.
In an act of bravado, Burnside left his comfortable quarters aboard the transport George Peabody, and with his staff went aboard the Army gunboat Pickett.
Poor guy.
He chose this vessel because he considered her to be the least seaworthy ship in his command, and by showing his troops that he was willing to share their misery, he earned their devotion.
I mean, yeah.
Well, good for him. He's like,
right.
I'm going to go on here and we'll see what this is all about, boys. Oh, shit, this is a mistake.
That sucks. When the storm struck, he began to doubt the wisdom of his move. But Pickett survived and got him safely to his destination. Pickett's the boat.
Right.
3 vessels in the Armada were not so lucky, though. The City of New York, laden with ordnance and supplies. The Pocahontas, carrying horses. An Army gunboat, Zouave, were all lost. Although all persons aboard were rescued, the only personal loss were 2 officers of the 9th New Jersey who were drowned when their surfboat overturned following a visit to the flagship. Oh, geez. They're just going to visit, and their little boat tipped over, and they drowned. You gotta learn how to swim, bud.
Right.
How can you be in the Navy and you don't know how to swim?
Well, this is Army.
All right, Army.
These are the Army boats.
And why would the Army have a gunboat?
Because we just discussed it.
No.
He wanted his own gunboats.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
The entry into Pamlico Sound through Hatteras Inlet was time-consuming. The swash, thought to be 8 feet deep, was found the hard way to be only 6 feet. Oh, geez, so how much of those ran aground?
Jeez.
Some of the Union Army ships drew too much to get across and had to be kedged in before being lightened.
Right.
Or after being lightened. Others were too deep even to be kedged in. The men or materials they carried had to be brought ashore on Hatteras Island and the ship sent back. Bark John... Oh, you son of a bitch, dude. It's flying right into my eye. Bark John Trucks never made it at all.
Oh.
She could not get close enough to Hatteras Island even for the men aboard to be taken off.
All right.
She returned to Annapolis with the majority of the regiment, which was the 53rd New York. A detachment of the command was active in the Battle of Roanoke Island.
Okay.
Not until February 4th was the fleet as ready as it ever would be and assembled in Pamlico Sound. There, we're ready for battle now, boys.
Oh, man. While the Northern Fleet was struggling over the bar, the Confederates were strangely inert. No reinforcements were sent to the island.
Why
or,
would they be?
For that matter, any other possible targets in the region.
Idiots. Like, they don't see all these guys coming. There's got, how many guys? They got like 13,000 men.
Ridiculous. The number of infantrymen on the island remained at about 1,400.
Jeez.
With 800 in reserve at Nag's Head. The major change was negative.
Sure.
February 1st, Wise came down with what was called pleurisy, with high fever and spitting up blood, threatening pneumonia.
Uh-oh.
He was confined to bed at Nag's Head and remained hospitalized until the 8th of February, after the battle was over.
Conveniently.
Right. Although he continued to issue orders, effective command on Roanoke Island fell, like we said earlier, Colonel H.M. Shaw of the 8th North Carolina Infantry.
Yes, sir. The fleet got underway early in the morning after they had assembled in the Sound, which was February 5th, and by nightfall, they were near the southern end of Roanoke Island, where they anchored. Rain and strong winds prevented movements the next day.
Uh-oh.
And the major activity was Goldsborough's shift of his flag from USS Philadelphia to Southfield.
Uh-oh.
Why? February 7th, the weather moderated and the Navy gunboats got into position. They first fired a few shells inland at Ashby Harbor, the intended landing place, and determined that the defenders had no batteries there.
Oh, okay.
So they're like, all right, we're going right up on here on Ashby Harbor. We're about to take this fucking island.
They moved up to Croatan Sound, where they were divided. Some were ordered to fire on the fort at Pork Point, which is Fort Bartow, while others were to concentrate their fire on the 7 vessels of the Mosquito Fleet.
Okay.
That's the Southerns. At about noon, bombardment began. The weakness of the Confederate position was revealed at this time. Only 4 of the guns at Fort Bartow would bear on the Union gunboats. Forts Huger and Blanchard could not contribute at all.
Oh, wow.
Fort Forest, on the other side of the Sound, was rendered completely useless when gunboat CSS Curlew, holed at the waterline, ran ashore directly in front in her effort to avoid sinking. Oh, and in doing so, massed the guns of the fort.
So their own boat.
Idiots.
Losses were light on both sides despite the intensity of the fight.
Losses were light, and so were wits.
Right. Several of the Union ships were hit, but none suffered severe damage. This was true for the Confederates also, aside from Curlew, but the remaining Mosquito Fleet had to retire simply because they ran out of ammo.
Oh, jeez.
The Army transports, accompanied by its gunboats, had in the meantime arrived at Ashby Harbor near the midpoint of the island. At 1500 hours, Burnside ordered the landings to begin, and at 1600 hours, the troops were reaching shore.
Spaghetti.
All right, we got the land stuff going on now.
A 200-man strong Confederate force commanded by Colonel John V. Jordan was the 31st North Carolina, in position to oppose the landing, was discovered and fired on by the gunboats. The defenders fled without any attempt to return fire. There was no further opposition. Almost all the 10,000 men present were ashore by midnight.
Jeez.
With the infantry went 6 launches with boat howitzers, commanded by a young midshipman, Benjamin H. Porter. The Union soldiers pushed inland a short distance and then went into camp for the night.
All right, boys, we're done here for the night.
10,000.
10,000 of these son bitches, dude. The Federal soldiers moved out promptly on the morning of February 8th, advancing north on the only road on the island. Leading was 1st Brigade's 25th Massachusetts, with midshipman Porter's howitzers immediately following. They were soon halted when they struck the Confederate redoubt and some 400 infantry blocking their path. Another 1,000 Confederates were in the reserve, about 250 yards to the rear. The front was so constricted that Colonel Shaw could deploy only a quarter of his men.
Wow.
The defensive line ended in what were deemed impenetrable swamps on both sides, so Shaw did not protect his flanks.
Really?
Right, why would you?
Right. The leading elements of the 1st Brigade spread out to match their opponent's configuration. And for 2 hours, the combatants fired at each other through blinding clouds of smoke. The 10th Connecticut relieved the exhausted but not badly bloodied 25th Massachusetts. But they could, too, not advance. No progress was made until the 2nd Brigade arrived, and its commander, Brigadier General Jesse Reno, in order them to penetrate the impenetrable swamp on the Union left. Brigadier General John Foster then ordered 2 of the reserve regiments to do the same on the right.
All right, so they're going through the swamp now. About this time, Brigadier General John G. Park came up with the 3rd Brigade, and it was immediately sent to assist. Although they were not coordinated, the 2 flanking movements emerged from the swamp at nearly the same time. Wow. Good for them. Reno ordered his 21st Massachusetts, 51st New York, and 9th New Jersey to attack. As they were firing on the Confederates, the 23rd Massachusetts from the 1st Brigade appeared on the other end of the line.
Oh, jeez.
The defensive line began to crack. Noting this, Foster ordered his remaining forces to attack.
Right. Damn right. That's
Under
smart.
assault from 3 sides, the Confederates broke and fled.
Obviously.
They're gone.
That's a good call to go through the swamp there.
Yes, sir.
As no fallback defenses had been set up, and he was bereft of artillery, Colonel Shaw surrendered to Foster.
Well, you better have.
Included in the capitulation were not only the 14 hundo infantry that he commanded directly, but also the guns in the forts. 2 additional regiments of 2nd North Carolina and 46th Virginia had been sent as reinforcements. They arrived too late to take any part in the battle, but not too late to take part in the surrender.
They came all that way just to surrender.
What? Oh, okay.
Here you go.
Wow, ain't that some
That's
shitty?
hilarious, dude.
Altogether, some 25 hundo men became prisoners of war.
Could you imagine them walking up to the site and all they see their men are already surrendered to 10,000 other Union forces, dude, and they're like, shit.
Right.
Too late to run now.
Right. Aside from the men who went into captivity, casualties were rather light for the Civil War standards, they say. The federal forces lost 37 killed, 214 wounded, and 13 men missing. The Confederates lost 23 killed, 58 wounded, and 62 missing. I mean,
Confederates always kill more.
right. They just don't have the structure.
They just don't have the men as well.
Man.
Roanoke Island remained in Union control for the rest of the war. Immediately after the battle, the Federal gunboats passed the now silent Confederate forts into Albemarle Sound and destroyed what was left of the Mosquito Fleet at the Battle of Elizabeth City, coming up in about 3 seconds. Burnside used the island as staging ground for later assaults on New Bern and Fort Macon, resulting in their capture. Several minor expeditions took other towns on the Sounds. The Burnside expedition ended only in July when its leader was called to Virginia to take part in the Richmond campaign.
Okay.
Which doesn't end well for them.
After Burnside left, North Carolina ceased to be an active center of the war.
I'm sure it did.
Only 1 or 2 exceptions. No notable military actions took place until the last days of the conflict, when the Second Battle of Fort Fisher closed Wilmington, the last open port in the Confederacy.
Oh, yeah.
The Army classified the slaves on Roanoke Island as contraband, and by late 1862, hundreds more escaped slaves and had joined them. While Foster was commander of the Department of North Carolina, in 1863 he appointed Horace James, a Congregational chaplain, as superintendent of Negro affairs for the North Carolina district.
Oh, good for him.
Encouraged him to support the former slaves in becoming educated, growing their own food, and working.
Yeah, good for them.
Working for money.
Based in New Bern, James supervised the Trent River contraband camp there, but decided to make Roanoke Island a self-sustaining colony. The Freedmen's Colony of Roanoke Island was an important model that lasted 4 years. Not 4 years, but 4 years. Like the number 4.
Right.
It had a sawmill, established fisheries, and by 1864 it had 2,200 residents. Good for them. It was overcrowded when residents reached 3,900 at its peak, in part because poor soil on the island limited productivity of agriculture. Many of its people, I can't imagine you can do too much stuff on an island surrounded by swamps.
Right.
Many of its people worked for the Army for wages, and more than 150 men enlisted in the United States colored troops.
Nice.
Missionary teachers recruited by the American Missionary Association taught reading and writing to both children and adults, and it was an important step towards citizenship for the freedmen.
Right. What are you gonna do, man? You gotta. It's like a people. It's like the.
I agree completely.
It's like that program for the people that have been in prison for like 20, 30 years.
Right. Reform.
Yep, gotta reform your ass.
Right.
Battle of Elizabeth City. Here we go, guys. It was fought in the immediate aftermath of the Battle of Roanoke Island. It took place on February 10th, 1862, on the Pasquotank River, near Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Flag Officer Lynch for the South took his fleet to Elizabeth City to resupply and repair forests, CSS forests.
They ran away from Roanoke Island. It was like, we need to repair.
Failing to find ammunition to replenish his magazines, he sent Commander Thomas T. Hunter, former captain of CSS Curlew, to Norfolk. He later sent CSS Raleigh up to Dismill Swamp Canal for the same purpose. Hunter returned with enough to resupply only 2 ships. Lynch divided it among all his remaining servable ships.
Wow.
Raleigh, however, was not able to return in time.
Oh, sucks to be him, huh?
Right.
No further changes to the status affected the Mosquito fleet. On the eve of the battle, Lynch had at his disposal 6 ships in the water, each with only enough shot and powder to be able to fire 10 times.
Oh, jeez.
So that's 60 shots. That's it.
That's sad.
His flagship, Seabird, carrying 2 guns, was a converted sidewheel steamer. Yeah, we'll see how well those work. 3 of his other vessels were the former tugs, the Appomattox and Ellis, each with 2 guns, and Beaufort with only 1. The Fanny, however, had 2 guns and had been a transport vessel used by the U.S. Army until she was captured by the Confederates near Cape Hatteras.
Sweet.
The last vessel, which was the CSS Black Warrior, a schooner that had been pressed into service only 4 days before the battle, and that was armed with 2 32-pounder guns.
Hey.
In addition to the 11 guns of his fleet, Lynch counted on the 4 guns of the Cobb's Point Battery for support. You ain't not looking too good, Lynch.
4 guns better than none.
I guess, with only 10 shots.
The surrender of Roanoke Island on 8th February included all the rebel forts that had faced on Croatan Island.
Yes, it did, or
Croatan
Sound.
So they would no longer be able to prevent passage of Union ships from Pamlico into Albemarle Sound.
Fuck now.
Flag Officer Goldsboro therefore ordered his gunboats to pursue the Mosquito fleet and destroy it, which we know that. Although none of his vessels had been seriously hit in the bombardment of the preceding day.
What do you mean? We don't know that because
some are damaged.
He hasn't destroyed the fleet yet.
Right, some are damaged enough that he decided not to include them in his order. 14 ships remained, however, and they carried a total of 37 guns.
Wow.
Goldsboro himself did not accompany the pursuit. Instead, he sent Commander Stephen Rowan. He's like,
in his steed.
He's like, Commander Rowan, take care of this for me.
Get out of here for me, right?
Take care of this for me.
Well, those 14 vessels, like their Confederate counterparts, converted from civilian vessels in the first days of the war. Rowan's flagship, Delaware, Hetzel, Isaac N. Seymour, John L. Lockwood, Ceres, and General Putnam had all been sidewheel steamers before being acquired by the Navy.
Jeez.
The Shawsheen was also a sidewheel steamer, and like 2 of her opponents, was a former tug. 2 other sidewheel vessels, Commodore Perry and Morse, had been ferries. The remaining 5 ships, the Louisiana, Underwriter, Valley City, Whitehead, and Henry Brinker, were screw steamers.
Okay.
We got all types of different shit going on here.
Right.
Huh?
If Captain Lynch had known that the Federal fleet faced a shortage of ammunition very much like his own, he perhaps would have altered his tactics.
But he didn't know it. How could you know?
Right. Although the outcome would likely have been the same.
Right.
As it was, Rowan ordered the captains in his fleet to conserve their ammo. They were told to use ramming and boarding, so far as was possible, to disable or capture the enemy ships. 9th of February, Rowan's gunboats passed the now silent guns of Croatan Sound and crossed Albemarle Sound. Darkness fell as they approached Elizabeth City, so they anchored.
All right, boys, we're going to anchor right here through the night. Normally, we'd be passing through here, getting shot at by all sorts of guns. Not no more. Well, Lynch used this time that the Union flotilla was anchored to arrange his own ships for the coming battle. He knew it already. He was like, we're going to brace up, boys. He decided to base his position on the battery of 4 guns at Cobb's Point, smart, placing schooner CSS Black Warrior opposite the point and his 5 remaining steamships in line across the river a short distance upstream.
Okay.
He took this position because he expected the Union to try to reduce the battery before proceeding, as they had done 3 days previously in the opening phase of the Battle of Roanoke Island.
Right.
His final instructions to his captains included the order not to let the ships fall into enemy hands. If all else failed, they should try to escape or else destroy the vessels.
Oh, spaghetti.
I don't think they want your little ragtaggy vessels anyways. They're guys. Maybe they do.
Right.
They probably do because the Confederates are the ones that could operate on shallow waters.
Right. Dawn, 10th February. Lynch made his first visit to the Cobb's Point Battery. coordinate its defense with the fleet. He found it manned by only 7 militiamen and a single civilian.
Oh, jeez.
Because the battery was the strong point of the planned defense, he was constrained to order Lieutenant Commander William Harwar Parker, captain of the CSS Beaufort, to come ashore with most of his crew to man the guns.
Right.
All right.
So now one of his ships are gone.
Well, that's fine. He left only enough on the ship to take her up to the canal.
Wow.
With additional men, only 3 of the 4 guns could be manned. When battle was joined, the militiamen promptly deserted.
Jeez. Yeah, they're militiamen. They're not even part of the army.
Right. They're like, I'm sorry.
Like, sorry, guys. You guys are about to get smoked. I'm not having no part of this.
Which left 2 of the guns could only be used against the enemy.
Oh, dude.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
The battery turned out to be irrelevant, though, because his ammunition was low and his mission was to destroy the rebel fleet. Rowan ordered his ships to bypass the battery. Right. Parker and his men. Right. So this dude took all of his guys off the ship to go do the battery, and now they don't have a ship to protect against or to fight against these guys. Parker and his men got off a few wild shots that did no harm, but they found their guns would not bear once the federal fleet was upstream. Right. They therefore could only watch as their ships were destroyed by the attacking federal fleet.
Oh, jeez, man.
First of the Confederate fleet to be lost was the schooner Black Warrior. She was fired on by the entire attacking force as they passed the Cobb's Point battery, so her crew abandoned her and set her afire.
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez, dude.
Likewise, Fanny was run ashore and burned. A boarding party from Ceres captured CSS Ellis in hand-to-hand combat. Her captain would have blown up Ellis, but a coal heaver discovered the charges and revealed them to the boarding party. Yeah, he was like, they're going to blow this ship.
Mm-hmm.
CSS Seabird attempted to escape, but was run down and sunk by Commodore Perry. CSS Beaufort and Appomattox made good their escape into the dismal swamp.
They're like, bye.
There, Appomattox was found to be 2 inches wide to pass through a lock. So, she was burned. CSS Forest, on the stocks to repair the damaged screw she had sustained on the 8th February, was burned, along with the unnamed and uncompleted gunboat. The CSS Raleigh was still at Norfolk, so she was not harmed. She and Beaufort were the only vessels in the Mosquito Fleet to escape either capture or destruction.
Well, casualties were modest for this one. The attacking federal fleet lost 2 men killed and 7 wounded, while the rebels lost in all 4 killed, 6 wounded, and 34 captured. That's not bad, though.
What are you going to do?
Quarter Gunner John Davis was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for his actions on board the Valley City during the engagement.
Nice.
Good for him.
Right.
Medal of Honor. Does that be the first one of the war so far? I don't know. They just implemented it not too long ago.
Right. When they learned of the destruction of the fleet and the surrender of Cobb's Point Battery, Confederate troops retreating from Roanoke Island set fires in Elizabeth City, acting under orders from Brigadier General Henry Weiss to destroy the town.
What about the residents?
They don't care. About 2 blocks had been consumed when sailors from the Union flotilla arrived and were able to save the rest.
Good for them.
The Albemarle and Chesapeake Canal was blocked near the entrance at the North River. The retreating rebels started the obstruction. It was completed by the victorious federal forces, acting under the orders of Flag Officer
So
Goldberg.
now they're blocking it. You ain't getting back in, Confederates. The town of Edenton was taken without bloodshed on the 12th of February by 4 of Commander Cohen's gunboats. 2 schooners were captured and another destroyed, and 8 cannon were seized. More generally, there was no longer a Confederate presence on the Albemarle Sound. It remained so for the rest of the war, for most of the rest of the war. Right. The only significant challenge to the Union dominance was the short-lived experiments of the CSS Albemarle in the summer of 1864, which we'll get to, I'm sure. Although Norfolk was not attacked, in May, the city was abandoned. So all of Norfolk, Virginia, gone, dude. They can't get no more supplies up there. Wow.
That's a blow there.
It is. Major, I would say.
Major
blow. Battle of New Bern, also known as Battle of New Bern, with an E. That was fought March 14th, 1862, near the city of New Bern, North Carolina, as part of the Burnside Expedition. There's a lot of Burns. Field of Bern. New Bern lies on the left, which is the southwest bank of the Neuse River, about 37 miles above its exit into Pamlico Sound. The river's broad in this vicinity and deep enough that vessels that can navigate the sound can also ply the river.
Nice.
In the colonial era, the town was quite important as a seaport, but since been taken over by the time of the Civil War from Morehead City, and Beaufort, which had largely supplanted it as importante.
Nevertheless, New Bern was still a significant military target, as the railroad that connected the coast with the interior passed through the city, which was the Atlantic and North Carolina Railroad. A short distance further up at Goldsboro, the line crossed the Wilmington and Weldon Railroad, noted for keeping the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia supplied throughout the war.
Gotta have them supplies.
Thus, if New Bern were to fall into federal hands, an important link in the supply chain of that army would be severely broken. The land in this part of North Carolina is low, rather flat, sometimes very, very, very marshy.
Especially in 1862, the sod of land was mostly covered with open pine forest, although in places it was broken into low hills with deciduous forests separated by ravines. It's got a little bit of everything. It was crossed by many creeks that sometimes rise to the status of small rivers. I'm a small river. I'm a river. One of these, the Trent River, separates New Bern from the land to its south. Slightly smaller Slocum's Creek enters 16 miles farther down the Neuse. It was to be the landing site for the attacking federal forces. The entire action, aside from the takeover of the city, was confined to the land between these two streams. The railroad ran on a system of berms and occasional cuts about a mile inland from the river.
That's some rough terrain over in that part of the old country.
Yeah, man, you can't.
If anybody's from this area of the country,
They know.
it entered the city on the bridge over the Trent River. A county road passed over the same land, also connecting New Bern with Morehead City and Beaufort. In the vicinity of the battle, it lay between railroad and the river, but it crossed the railroad about a mile and a half north of what would be the battlefield. Okay, it's up a little picture there. What's going on?
Right.
The road continued to be northwest, crossing the Trent on a drawbridge about 4 miles west of the city. In the manner of the time, the road was unpaved as the soldiers of the Union learned to their sorrow.
Well, they would, too.
How many paved streets were there in
Probably 1,800, probably none.
1860 something? I bet you all the eastern coast are big cities, Boston.
Yeah, that's true, because they're bricks.
All right.
And little horses clacking on them all
Right.
throughout the city, yeah.
Instead of I don't know if that's how it sounds.
According to Red Dead Redemption 2.
Right.
The importance of New Bern was no more obvious to Burnside than it was to Confederate authorities in Richmond, but they did little to secure it. Although more than a month passed after Roanoke Island fell before Burnside could mount an attack on the city, the local command received no reinforcements. They were like, we know you guys are probably next, but we're not going to do anything to help you.
Right.
One of General Branch's aides estimated that the lines would need at least 6,100 men to hold them, but he had only about 4,000 at his disposal, a number often reduced by sickness.
All right.
Furthermore, many of the men were poorly armed militiamen that didn't give a shit either way. Those are the ones that are deserting the first chance they get, too.
And that's a common theme.
Right.
Poorly armed.
You can put any word after that you want.
Poorly anything.
Right. The disparity between necessity and reality persuaded Branch to draw his lines in, abandoning some of the strong breastworks erected by his predecessor.
I mean, he still could have left them stranded out like that. At least you have something.
He could have left them exactly how they were.
Right. You would have had something there. Jeez.
Well, this principal defense would be the line based on Fort Thompson.
Well, that Fort Thompson line that had been set up by General Hill extended only from the river to the railroad. They ended on the right in a brickyard that would figure prominently in the fighting. Makes sense. Because the land farther to the right was fairly firm and would allow his position to be flanked, General Branch decided to extend the line beyond the railroad and end it in a swamp.
Yeah, you ain't going to go through the swamp.
I wouldn't want to. This just about doubled the length of the defensive line. He made a major blunder in laying out the line, however.
Oh.
In haste to complete the extension and faced with an exasperating shortage of labor, he decided to use a small creek as a natural part of the line, which he shouldn't have done.
They're never going to walk through a small creek.
It'll be just like the marsh.
Right.
No, they're going to walk through the creek. That swamp, you don't want that swamp ass. This creek intersected the railroad at a point about some 150 yards or so up from the brickyard. The line of breastworks, therefore, had a dog leg in its center, so it was even worse. A little blind spot right there. Jeez, old Pete guy.
Over on the Union side, we got Ambrose Burnside and Stephen C. Rowan over there commanding things of the Coast Division and North Atlantic Blockade and Squadron, 13 infantry regiments, about 11,000 soldiers with 14 gunboats on their side.
Ridiculous.
Meanwhile, on the other side, we got Lawrence O.B. Branch. He's got the 1st Division Department of North Carolina with 6 infantry regiments, about 4,000 people,
Not
and 1
even, though.
cavalry. Right?
Not even. More than half probably injured or sick.
The soldiers of the Coast Division clambered into their transport at Roanoke Island on March 11th and got underway early the next morning, accompanied by 14 Navy gunboats and 1 gunboat of their own. One of the Navy vessels was detached to guard the mouth of the Pamlico River, where it was incorrectly rumored that rebels were preparing 2 ships to cut off transports that might become separated from Navy protection. Rumors. The main force traversed Pamlico Sound, entered the Neuse River, and anchored near the mouth of Slocum's Creek at dusk.
Jeez, O.P.
We're ready.
Right. The fleet that traveled up the Neuse River was full of infantry, who left their ships and set up south of Confederate soldiers at Fort Thompson. These Confederate soldiers consisted of 4,000 men who were behind temporary defenses. Branch was aware of their presence, immediately ordered his forces to take up defensive positions. He sent Colonel James Sinclair's 35th North Carolina Infantry to the landing at Otter Creek, in front of the Croton Work, with instructions to oppose enemy landings at that site.
I would hope so. Colonel Zebulon Vance's 26th North Carolina was ordered into the Croton Work. Other units guarded the river upstream, and reserves were assembled at the intersection of the railroad and Beaufort Road. All units were instructed that if they were forced from their positions, they should fall back onto Fort Thompson line.
All units were instructed to reply, right?
Right. At dawn,
Reply.
March 13th, the Federal troops began to disembark.
Uh-oh.
A small rebel unit trying to contest the landing was quickly driven away by fire from the gunboats, as Colonel Sinclair interpreted his orders to defend against a landing at Otter Creek narrowly.
Burnside spent the morning getting men and equipment ashore. With the infantry came 6 boat howitzers and 2 army howitzers from the Navy.
Well, 6 were.
Right, 6 were from the Navy and 2 from the Army. Because of the weather, he decided to land his other artillery closer to enemy lines. But dense fog soon closed in. He could not communicate with his fleet. His remaining guns were not landed. A little after noon, the Union soldiers began to move toward the Confederate lines. And at about the same time, the rains began. Let the rains begin! The road was soon turned into a little mud bucket.
Turned into a little mud.
And the mere act of walking required great exertion.
I bet it did. Well, especially with these guys. The gunners with the howitzers accompanying the infantry soon were exhausted trying to move their pieces.
Yeah, screw that.
So a regiment of infantry, which was the 51st Pennsylvania, were detailed to help them. Many of those foot soldiers long remembered this as the hardest part of the battle. There we go. As the soldiers made their slow progress, the gunboats kept a short distance ahead, shelling places where rebels might be waiting. Colonel R.P. Campbell, in command of the Confederate right wing, interpreted the naval gunfire as preliminary to another landing that would take the Croton Work in reverse. So he ordered a general pullback to the Fort Thompson line. Good for him.
Right.
So all I'm hearing now is the Confederates are misinterpreting everything.
When the Federal Army came upon the when the Federal Army came upon the first Confederate breastworks, they found them abandoned.
They're like, hey, people are supposed to be here. What happened?
They're not there, bud. The Coast Division soon resumed its march. Leaving the Croton Work, First Brigade moved on the right, which was Foster's Brigade, following the country road, while the second brigade followed the railroad on the left with his Reno's Brigade. The 3rd Brigade followed after the 1st, so that's Parks. Parks going to follow Foster, and Reno's going to go off to the Louis. Mm-hmm. They continued until they came into contact with enemy pickets, about a mile and a half away from Fort Thompson. Daylight having been exhausted, Burnside ordered a halt and had the brigades rest down for the night, right? And he said, I want you guys to stop where you're at in order of the march, guys.
Camp out here right now. You guys stay in order and pick it up in the morning.
You stay to the left. You stay to the right. Hey, buddy.
You stay behind.
You stay back there. I don't want nobody intertwining with anybody. You stay where you're at, buddy. The howitzers did not arrive, though, until 3 a.m.
Yeah, bet.
Dang.
Push that shit through the mud, dude. The field was covered by a dense fog on the morning of March 14th. Burnside ordered his forces to form and advance on the rebel works. The Yankees did not have complete information concerning their opponent's disposition at this time. So far as they knew, the Confederate line extended only from the river to the brickyard. In keeping with this belief, Burnside ordered the 1st Brigade to engage the enemy left, while the 2nd Brigade would try to turn their right at the brickyard. The 8 howitzers were deployed across the county road.
Okay, still got the 1 in reserve.
Yep.
The Army also got some dubious support from the gunboats under Commander Stephen C. Rowan. who shelled the rebel positions, although they were hidden by intervening force. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it
You're
doesn't
throwing
matter.
shit in the
Right.
woods. Anything can happen. This gunfire greatly disturbed the North Carolinians, but it was inaccurate enough that Burnside eventually asked Cohen to change direction. He's like, all right.
Right, you're getting a little crazy there, but
Meanwhile,
it's not doing anything anyway.
Right. Meanwhile, on the other side, General Branch had put his regiments into the line. From his left at Fort Thompson to the brickyard on his right were the 27th, 37th, 7th, 35th North Carolina regiments. His reserve was the 33rd.
All right, so they're there. You need to change out some regiments. Hurry
Still
up, 33rd.
heavily outmanned.
Oh, hell yeah. The right flank of the 35th was anchored in a brickyard, obviously. That was a brickyard kiln that was loopholed for artillery. The entire line beyond the railroad was occupied by a single regiment, which was the 26th North Carolina, plus a few companies of cavalry. The gap in this line created by the dogleg at the railroad was covered only by his weakest unit, which was the militia battalion, that only had 2 weeks of training
Right.
and were only armed with shotguns and hunting rifles.
I'll take the hunting rifles. The hunting rifles.
Yeah.
Shotguns.
To give them additional support, he ordered up a 2-gun battery of 24-pounders to the kiln, but they were not mounted when they came under attack.
Jeez,
Not going to do no good if you ain't mounted.
They're hoping these guys, the little battalion there, the little militia, would just at least hold them off for a second. It didn't work out.
Stupid.
Right, that was dumb. The 1st Brigade of the Union Army opposed them from the river to the railroad, right to left. The units were the 25th, 24th, 27th, 23rd Massachusetts, 10th Connecticut. The Beaufort Road ran through the center of this line, and here General Foster placed the howitzers that had been dragged along. On the federal left, General Reno, still unaware of the extension of the enemy lines beyond the railroad, ordered a part of the 21st Massachusetts to charge the brick kiln, while the 9th New Jersey and the 51st New York would engage the enemy in support. The 51st Pennsylvania was held in reserve. The charge was successful at first, but they then found themselves under fire from the whole line and were forced to pull back.
They're like, damn, there's more people here, and they extend over the brickyard.
Right.
Well, Burnside at this time ordered his reserve, the 3rd Brigade, into the line to support Reno's 2nd Brigade.
Smart.
The 4th Rhode Island replaced the 21st Massachusetts, which had used up its ammunition. While trading places, Colonel Isaac P. Rodman of the 4th Rhode Island was told by Lieutenant Colonel William S. Clark of the 21st Massachusetts that he thought that another attack on the brick kiln would be successful.
It would be.
Rodman sent a courier to General Park informing him that he was taking responsibility, then formed his regiment and ordered them to charge.
That's good shit right there. Mm-hmm. It's like, we need to keep on rolling here.
We got to hit him. We already hit him once.
Right.
We got to keep going at him, man.
We know we got more than them. Armed with better knowledge of the enemy, this charge was successful. The 4th Rhode Island captured 9 brass field pieces.
Nice.
Found themselves in the rear of the rebel entrenchments. Oh. At this point, the Confederate line broke. The rupture started then when the inexperienced militiamen fled
Now, what'd I tell you?
and exposed the units on both of their flanks. Dang. That's crazy. That's like that's like your right tackle not doing his job.
Or
your right guard,
or
left tackle.
It's like the interior of the line just
Right.
leaving, and all you got is your guards.
Boom, you're
Or
done.
your tackles.
Jeez, Pete. Wow. Branch ordered his reserves to plug the gap, but they did not arrive in time. They never do.
Never do.
As the line was rolled up on both wings, each regimental commander in succession pulled his unit back to escape being slaughtered.
Oh, they was about to get slaughtered. Dude.
General Branch ordered a retreat, which soon became a rout.
Yeah.
The fleeing North Carolinians dashed across the bridge over the Trent River into New Bern, then burned the bridge so freaking fast that some of their dudes were left behind and they were captured.
Sorry, guys. Got to
Hey.
prevent them from coming over the bridge.
Right. They also burned a fire raft in the river, which soon drifted across to the railroad bridge and destroyed that.
Okay.
Oh, jeez.
No railroad either. They're kind of hurting themselves there, though. While the battle was in progress, Commander Rowan's ships had moved up the river to assist. They received only minor damage in passing the lower barrier and then positioned themselves to shell Fort Thompson. When the fort was abandoned, they immediately passed the second barrier and moved on to New Bern. Because Branch's order to retreat included all of the Confederate river batteries, their guns were spiked and they were abandoned to the fleet.
Of course they were.
At the city, the fleet shelled the retreating Confederate troops, denying them the opportunity to regroup.
I mean, yeah. There's too much going
You
on.
better just leave the city now if you want to live.
Everybody just stop and you end up somewhere. You try to figure out a way to get a hold of each other.
Right.
The retreating units could not reform until they had fled all the way to Kinston.
Oh, that's where they regroup.
With both bridges destroyed, Burnside soldiers had to be ferried across the river by the gunboats, so that slowed them down.
Yeah.
Branch had lost 64 men that were killed, 101 wounded, 413 captured or missing, compared to Burnside's 90 killed, 380 wounded, and a single man captured. Again, though, North. They don't care. They're just throwing their guys in it, and we know we got more, so we can handle some more casualties.
Always losing more, man.
New Bern fell and was occupied by the United States of America.
Under occupation.
It remained in control of the United States for the rest of the war.
Good for them.
Immediately following the battle, Burnside turned his attention to his next important objective, getting control of the port at Beaufort, which was defended by Fort Macon.
Or Macon.
Well, that battlefield is preserved today as the New Bern battlefield site. The Civil War Trust and its partners, including the New Bern Historical Society, have acquired and preserved 25 acres of the battlefield site.
Good for them.
All right.
Good battle. Union slaughtered them, pretty much.
Ridiculous.
We got the siege of Fort Macon taking place from March 23rd to April 26th. I got a whole month-long battle here.
Draw me a bath.
Right. On the outer banks of Carteret County, North Carolina. Fort Macon was one of the third system coastal forts that were built around the borders of the still young United States following the War of 1812. It was built on the eastern end of Bogue Banks and the outer banks of North Carolina and was intended to defend the entrance to the ports of Beaufort and Morehead City. Guess what?
Didn't happen.
Begun in 1826, it was completed and received its first garrison in 1834. It's 8 years after its first garrison, but okay. As it was intended for defense against attacking enemy naval forces, it was built of masonry. Gunfire from a rolling ship's deck was not accurate enough at that time to be able to break down brick and stone walls. At that time, although the advent of rifled artillery would soon make its walls vulnerable, no alterations were made to the fort.
Since we found out about that first ironclad battle, guess what, guys? Hey, man, these guys can do some damage now. But yet,
it was a whole generation out of date when the Civil War came.
A whole generation.
So pretty much, you guys already know what's going to happen.
Like, what are you talking about? This fort withstood the War of 1812, the Spanish-American War. Yeah, but this is totally different.
A whole new set of rules here, pal.
It's totally different, guys. We're actually fighting against ourselves.
Right.
Well, after the first spate of enthusiasm, the fort was allowed to deteriorate.
I'm sure it was.
The woodwork rotted, the ironwork rusted, and the gun carriages were allowed to decay. The garrison was steadily reduced in size.
I don't get it. If Beaufort and Morehead or whatever was more valuable than New Bern, why didn't they do anything with this? I don't understand. It's stupid.
They knew Macon was the place to be.
Right.
Wow. The garrison steadily reduced in size until by the time of the beginning of the Civil War, the care of the fort was entrusted to a single sergeant.
One single sergeant.
And when the fort was taken over by North Carolina troops under Captain Josiah Solomon Pender on April 14th, this is before the state had seceded from the Union, only 4 guns were mounted.
Wow.
The local military authorities immediately set about improving this armament. A total of 56 pieces.
Oh, okay. So they allowed it to decay, and then the war happened. Now they're going to fix it up. Okay.
Right. Well, before the war.
Well, April 14th, they knew what shit was about to go down. So
A total of 56 pieces, 5 8-inch and 2 10-inch Columbiads, 9 24-pounders,
19 24-pounders,
32 32-pounders, and 6 field guns. They were all mounted, but they had ammunition for only 3 days of action.
Jeez, see, they do good, but then they do dumb shit at the same time. I don't understand it.
We should be good for about 3 days.
Right. At the time of the siege, the garrison of the fort numbered about 430 officers and men, commanded by Colonel Moses J. White. Sickness reduced this number by about a third. Oh, here goes the sickness again. Despite the poor diet and other living conditions that they suffered, only 1 man died, though.
No.
Morale among the men was generally not good as they were cut off from their families, and White was unpopular, both with his men and with the people of Beaufort. A few men deserted during the siege.
You know why?
More than a few.
You know why? Because they see White and all of his little buddies sitting there comfortably in their tents with
eating fucking
all the food,
turkey legs and shit.
Yeah, get the hell out of here.
When battle came, the fort was outdated, inadequately armed, poorly supplied, and intended for a different form of combat than what it's going to face. These deficiencies are adequate to explain why the fort succumbed so readily at the first blow.
Yeah, it was
literally like
terrible.
Knocked down a wall or something.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible.
Right.
Wow.
So long as Fort Macon remained in Confederate possession, Burnside, who was recently promoted to rank of Major General, good for him, could not use the ports at Beaufort and Morehead City. So immediately following the capture of New Bern, he said, "We got to get Fort Macon, boys."
He was like, these captures are pointless if we don't take the rest.
And then he orders Brigadier General John G. Park, commander of his 3rd Brigade, to reduce the fort. Park began by seizing the towns along the inner shore. Carolina City on March 21st, Morehead City on March 22nd, Newport March 23rd. Dude, just every day, just conquering. And finally, Beaufort on March 25th.
And these were no easy feats because if you listen,
if you remember in our last episode, the Confederates they left all these towns. They didn't even put up a fight.
All right, what was the one where they had to go through the marshes and all that?
That was last episode, but
Morehead City.
That was to get to New Bern.
All right, New Bern.
And then after New Bern and Kernstown
they're all
fell,
abandoned basically.
Yeah, the Confederates left. They're like, "Fuck this, dude. We can't do anything here."
They thought Beaufort, and Morehead City were going to be like majorly occupied, and it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. When they got there, well, I'm sure we'll see right here. Communications between the garrison and other Confederate forces were thereby severed. They were too. Park had also had to repair a railroad bridge at Newport, burned by the retreating Confederates, which we explained.
Right.
Following the loss of New Bern, the railroad was needed for the transport of his siege artillery.
Right. The only thing that slowed down their attack was having to go across the river because the bridge burned down. 23rd of March, 1862. General Park sent a message from his headquarters at Carolina City to Colonel White, demanding the surrender of the fort. He offered to release the men on parole if the fort was turned over intact. White replied tersely, "I have the honor to decline evacuating Fort Macon."
The honor, huh?
The siege can be regarded as starting with this exchange. I mean, what are you going to do? You actually think that guy's going to turn it over without hearing from the leading commanders?
He has no choice.
Yeah, but if he turns it over, then he's succumbed to...
Not everybody's a prick like Stonewall Jackson.
Yeah. Well, that's who's running shit. Jackson and Robert. Oh, I guess Robert E. Lee was a little more.
The main general right now is Johnston, I believe.
Johnston, yeah.
For them.
That is Johnston.
Yeah. The investment of the fort was not yet complete, but that was accomplished on March 29th when a company from Park's brigade crossed the Sound and landed unopposed on Bogue Banks. The Confederate infantry that would have defended against the landing, the 26th North Carolina, had been included in the retreat following the Battle of New Bern. They said, "We're just leaving, dude."
Yep.
Federal siege artillery followed, and Park set up 4 batteries that would bear on the fort. He had 4 8-inch mortars at a range of 1,200 yards, 4 10-inch mortars at a range of 1,600 yards, 3 30-pounder rifled Parrots at a range of 1,300 yards, and a 12-pounder boat howitzer at a range of 1,200 yards.
Yeah, so these guys don't even have to get...
Right, they're good. The batteries were moved up at night and remained hidden until behind sand dunes until they were ready to open fire.
Wow.
The defenders were aware of these activities but could not waste ammunition by firing at unseen targets.
Stupidity.
They had 3 days.
Right.
Total. Ammunition. Patrols sent out from the fort to harass the Union soldiers were driven back, usually without loss. On April 17th, General Burnside could state in his report to the War Department, he says, "I hope to reduce the fort within 10 days.
Oh,
his prediction proved to be remarkably accurate.
Yeah, I was going to say, guess what? This guy. Preparations were completed by April 23rd. On that day, General Burnside communicated directly with Colonel White and repeated his demand for surrender. Look at that. They're meeting each other face to face. "Hey, bud. Or are you? I'd surrender."
I don't think it was face to face. I think letters were sent.
I don't think it was face to face.
I don't think so.
Yeah. And he said, "Again, I'm going to offer to release your guys out on parole. Go home. Think about this war no longer.
On parole on condition you never take up arms against the Union again.
Go home. Think about this war no longer."
Yeah, but you can't go back to the South.
You can go back to the South.
No, because they'd be like, "Why aren't you in the war?"
It's true. And then you can't go to the North. They'll be like, "Damn, there's a Reb."
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of screwed. Colonel White once more refused. He said, "I'm sorry, sir, but I'm gonna have to be honored to say meow." So Burnside on April 24th ordered General Park to begin the bombardment as soon as possible. He's like, "We're not getting through to Colonel White. We're gonna have to take the fort."
Yeah, I think he's at the ballroom with the rope.
Park waited until nightfall to open the embrasures for his guns behind the dunes. The bombardment began at dawn on the 25th of April. At first, the gunners in the front manned their pieces and replied vigorously, but they were unable to inflict damage on the federal guns protected by the dunes. Yeah,
why would they? How would they?
Well, they're 1,300 yards away. I don't even know if the rebel guns can go that far.
Of course they can. The defenders were also, they had the same amount of guns. Remember, they installed some 32-pounders and shit.
That's true.
The defenders were also distracted by the appearance of 4 vessels from the blockading squadron, which were the steamers, the USS Daylight, the USS State of Georgia, and the Chippewa, and the bark Gemsbach.
Okay.
Until this time, the Navy had been had not been involved with the siege, but Commander Samuel Lockwood responded to the sound of gunfire.
Why would you not?
And brought his section of the fleet into action.
Yeah, but why would you not? If you can come up through the water.
I mean, if you don't need him, why waste it? The weather was not good for a naval bombardment. However, a strong wind created waves that caused the vessels to rock badly enough to disrupt their aim, and after about an hour, the fleet withdrew.
Yeah, they couldn't do much.
The Navy also supplied a pair of floating batteries to the attack, but again, the waves interfered, and only one of them got into action.
Yeah.
It is not certain whether the fort sustained any hits from the ships. The Confederate return fire was accurate enough to hit 2 vessels, doing little damage and slightly wounded only 1 man.
Hey.
Yeah, not worth it for these guys to be out there in the Navy.
Right. Or
just bombard them with your artillery. Dude.
Right, but they also made the Confederate waste ammo.
That's true.
The initial fire from the mortars on shore was inaccurate, but a signal corps officer in Beaufort, Lieutenant William J. Andrews, acting on his own responsibility, was able to deliver messages to the battery commanders, telling them how to adjust their range. Ain't that cool? After about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, virtually all shots were on target. Oh, nice. 19 guns were dismounted.
Wow.
The walls of the fort began to crumble under the continued pounding. And in mid-afternoon, Colonel White began to fear that the magazine would be breached.
No, it's about to be there.
4:30 p.m., 4.5 hours of fighting. He decided that the fort could no longer hold out. So he ordered that a white flag be raised.
Yeah, he's like,
At that point, as it should, firing on both sides was ceased.
Colonel White then met with General Park to discuss terms, and Park at first demanded unconditional surrender. Park's like, dude, I offered you twice already to do the one where I parole your guys, and you guys can just go on your merry way. But now you had to do it. And now, no, you can surrender right now. But then White asked him for more favorable conditions and referred to the terms that Burnside had offered on March 23rd, which was to parole the guys and all that shit.
All right.
Park did not concede, but agreed not to renew the bombardment until he could consult with Burnside. Burnside reasoned that White could hold out at least one more day, and further action would only cause more casualties and greater damage to the fort. Right. They still want to kind of keep the fort, at least, right?
Of course they do.
He therefore agreed to adhere to his first terms.
Right. He's like, all right, let him go. I mean, how could you not?
Right. I mean, might as well.
They have to. Those men have to fight.
Right.
Because of their leader's orders.
Right. The men in the fort were allowed to give their paroles, meaning they would not take up arms against the United States until properly exchanged. Also, they can go back into the war once they're out in their own territory again. Okay. They then were permitted to return to their homes, taking with them their personal property.
Right.
Shortly after dawn on April 26th, the Confederate flag.
The Confederates forced them to go back.
Right. I mean, you have no choice then, right?
I get it.
Shortly after dawn on April 26th, the Confederate flag was
some kind of paperwork, right?
I'm assuming.
Surely the Union gave them some kind of paperwork to show Confederates.
Don't call me Shirley.
I mean, right? They'd be like, "Hey, why aren't you at war, son?" Well, I got these papers from the Union here. They're like, what do you think? The Union's your government, boy? You think the Union?
Well, back then they did. Like people, not necessarily in the army, but people that were Confederate sympathizers. If they got caught for something against the Union, they would make them take an oath to the Union.
Right.
That's what they did. Or get imprisoned, because John Wilkes Booth, he was like protesting against way before the assassination.
Way before.
And they made him take an oath to the Union, and he did, to get out of jail.
Obviously. And then the CIA was like, hey, here's a better idea, bud.
Why don't you shoot him in the back of the head?
Are you sure I'll be all right? Yeah, man, just don't jump onto the stage.
Or hide in the barn.
All right, I'm going to shoot him. I'm going to jump on the stage. Oh, shit, broke my leg. I'm hiding in this barn.
Dr. Mudd. We'll be having that episode, too.
Yeah.
Got to, right?
Right.
The Confederate flag was lowered. The defenders marched out, and Union soldiers of the 5th Rhode Island marched down in.
Oh, marched down in.
They were like, aye, bye.
Yep. The battle had been relatively bloodless, at least by standards that soon would be common in the American Civil War.
Oh, soon is soon, right around the corner.
On the Union side, only one man had died, even though one man is too many.
Right.
We've been hearing that for the past couple of years, guys. And 2 soldiers and 1 seaman were wounded. Damn, that's too bad. On the Confederate side, 7 were murdered outright. 2 died of wounds and 16 were wounded. So 7 were murdered on the battlefield, 2 died of the wounds they sustained on the battlefield, and 16 were wounded and probably most likely died.
Well, amputations at least, right?
Right.
Although the Burnside
expedition had gained notable success at little cost in North Carolina, little was done to exploit it. Wilmington, for example, would seem to have vulnerable Wilmington, for example, would seem to have been vulnerable for the North, but it was not attacked until the final days of the war.
Yeah, but they didn't really need it. They needed these ones because it was important routes to get supplies.
Right. Burnside was recalled shortly after the victory at Fort Macon to assist General George B. McClellan in the Peninsula Campaign in Virginia. No further major offensive actions took place. North Carolina became a secondary theater until late in the war. The flag was returned to the state of North Carolina in 1906. Holy shit. 50 years after the war.
Yeah. They were like, North Carolina, you ain't getting your damn flag back, dude.
All right. They punished them. It was 50 years of punishment. In a Senate chamber ceremony attended by veterans of the siege. The battle site is now Fort Macon State Park.
That's cool.
All this time, North Carolina from 1965 to 1906
did not have a state flag. I'm assuming they were only allowed to flag the American, right? Given by the picture that they're showing, it looks like pretty intact battlefield still, so that'd be a cool place to go visit.
Would be.
We got the small battle of Mills, South Mills, that is. Also known as the Battle of Camden. Took place April 19th, 1862, Camden County, North Carolina. That was part of General Ambrose Burnside's North Carolina Expedition. We got Jesse Reno commanding a little thing for the United States, I think. Commanding the Department of North Carolina. He's got about 3,000 men. He's going to face off against Ambrose R. Wright, his 3rd Georgia Infantry, Ferriby's North Carolina Militia, Macoma's Battery, Gillette Southampton Cavalry Company, and he's got around 1,000 people.
Dang. Ambrose must have been a popular first name back then, huh?
I guess so.
There's 2 of them right there.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Ambrose.
Ambrose Dean. Right. Learning that Confederates were building ironclads at Norfolk, Burnside planned an expedition to destroy the dismal Swamp Canal locks to prevent transfer of the ships to Albemarle Sound. Heard these words before. Yeah. He entrusted the operation to Brigadier General Jesse L. Reno's command, which embarked on transports from Roanoke Island April 18th. By midnight, the convoy reached Elizabeth City and began disembarking troops. Yeah, nothing to do this one. Literally 2 paragraphs.
Morning of April 19th, Reno marched north on the road to South Mills. At the crossroads, a few miles below South Mills, elements of Colonel Ambrose R. Wright's command delayed the Federals until dark. Reno abandoned the expedition and withdrew during the night to the transports at Elizabeth City. The transports carried Reno's troops to New Bern, where they arrived on the 22nd of April. Union forces later pushed Confederate units out of the coastal areas, which they occupied for the duration of the war.
And that is the so-called Battle of South Mills.
Okay.
Nothing doing there.
Nothing.
Battle of Tranters Creek, June 5th, 1862, in Pitt County, North Carolina, as part of Ambrose E. Burnside's North Carolina Expedition. June 5th, Colonel Robert Potter, garrison commander of Washington, North Carolina, ordered a reconnaissance in the direction of Pactolus. The 24th Massachusetts, under Lieutenant Colonel F.A. Osborne, advanced to the bridge over Tranters Creek, where it encountered the 44th North Carolina under Rebel Colonel George Singletary. Unable to force a crossing, Osborne fired his artillery, which was companies A through G of the 1st New York Marine Artillery, at the mill buildings in which the Confederates were barricaded. George Singletary was killed in the bombardment, and his troops retreated. The Federals did not pursue and returned their fortifications at Washington. And that's the Battle of Tranters Creek.
Oh, they got a coin that was moited.
Yep, Colonel Dawn just bombarded by artillery,
right,
and killed them. And they said, well, job's done here. Let's move out, folks.
Basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not bad.